The shot is wide open. 3 seconds left. The crowd is screaming, and the athlete everyone expected to make it misses. You've seen this moment before, maybe on a screen, maybe in your own life. The job interview where your mind went blank. The exam where you knew every answer until the clock started. The presentation where the words you rehearsed 100 times simply vanished. The world calls it choking, and almost everyone gets the explanation wrong. They say nerves, they say weakness, they say some people just can't handle pressure. They say try harder next time, focus more, want it more. But what if choking isn't a character flaw at all? What if it's a hidden system inside your brain? One that switches on without permission, hijacks a skill you already mastered, and replaces it with something that feels like you but performs nothing like you? That question sits at the center of one of the strangest puzzles in performance science. Because the people who choke are not beginners. They are often the most prepared people in the room. They have practiced longer, trained harder, and succeeded more times than anyone around them. So why does the moment that matters most become the moment their body forgets everything it knows? To understand that, you have to stop thinking about pressure as an emotion and start thinking about it as a decision problem. Your brain is not one mind. It is a collection of systems, fast, slow, automatic, deliberate, and under stress, those systems fight for control. If you watched our first documentary on hidden decision-making, this will sound familiar. Daniel Kahneman described 2 modes of thought. System 1 is fast, intuitive, and automatic. It catches a ball, drives a familiar route, and sinks a free throw you have taken 10,000 times. System 2 is slow, analytical, and effortful. It calculates, compares, and monitors every step. In everyday life, the best performers rely on System 1. They trust the body to execute what the mind already learned. That is not laziness, that is expertise. Choking begins when System 2 barges in. Psychologist Sian Beilock spent years studying exactly this failure mode. Her research showed that under pressure, skilled performers often start explicitly monitoring movements that used to run on autopilot. The golfer who normally feels the swing suddenly thinks about the angle of the wrist. The basketball player who normally releases without hesitation starts counting steps in their head. The student who normally writes fluently starts judging every sentence as it forms. The skill doesn't disappear. It gets overwritten. Beilock called this explicit monitoring, and it is one of the cruelest tricks the brain plays on people who care deeply about getting something right. The more important the outcome feels, the more your conscious mind tries to help, and the more it tries to help, the worse you perform. Think about how strange that is. You fail not because you don't know what to do. You fail because you know too consciously what to do. That reversal breaks the story most people tell themselves about pressure. We are taught that concentration is always good, that more attention means better results, that the answer to anxiety is to grip tighter, breathe deeper, and force control. Performance science says the opposite. Roy Baumeister's work on choking under pressure helped establish that high stakes don't simply make people nervous, they change how the brain allocates mental resources. Working memory, the small mental workspace where you hold and manipulate information in real time, gets crowded. Anxiety eats bandwidth. Self-doubt eats bandwidth. The sentence, "Don't miss," eats bandwidth. And skilled movement does not need bandwidth. It needs space. There is an old idea in psychology called the Yerkes-Dodson law. Performance rises with arousal up to a point, then it collapses. A little pressure sharpens you. Too much pressure distorts the system that made you good in the first place. Picture an inverted U. The peak is not maximum effort. The peak is the zone where automatic skill and calm attention coexist. Miss that zone by a fraction, and the same person who dominated practice becomes a stranger in competition. This is why choking looks so public and so personal at the same time. From the outside, it seems like a sudden collapse of talent. From the inside, it feels like betrayal. You watch your own hands move wrong. You hear your own voice sound foreign. You think that wasn't me. But it was you. Or rather, it was a version of you running the wrong program. Researchers have found clues to why some people choke more predictably than others. When a task is highly automated, pressure tends to trigger step-by-step thinking. When a task still requires active problem-solving, pressure can sometimes help, up to a point, because focused effort has somewhere productive to go. The disaster zone is expertise plus self-consciousness. Master the movement, then start watching yourself do it, and the movement unravels. That pattern shows up far beyond stadiums. A surgeon does not choke because they forgot anatomy. A musician does not freeze because they never learned the piece. A pilot does not hesitate because they lack training. They choke when the moment turns their practice skill into an object of scrutiny, when the internal narrator gets loud enough to drown out the body. And here is the part most highlight reels never show. Choking is not random. It is not a mystical curse on certain personalities. It follows rules, hidden rules, rules your conscious mind never voted on. One of those rules is attention direction. Studies on performance under pressure repeatedly find that where you aim, your focus changes what your body can do. Internal focus, thinking about your limbs, your form, your breathing, your fear, tends to degrade automated skills. External focus, the rim, the target, the line on the page, the face of the person listening, tends to protect them. That sounds too simple until you watch it fail in reverse. Tell a nervous speaker to monitor their posture, their tone, their hand movements, and you can almost see the system crash in real time. Tell them to speak to one person in the back row, and the same voice often returns. Your brain decides what to control before you feel like you chose anything. Which brings us back to the deeper channel question: if your mind is not a single commander giving orders, but a set of competing processes, then choking is not you falling apart. It is one process seizing the wheel from another at exactly the wrong moment. That reframe matters because the culture around failure is brutally moral. Miss the putt, and commentators talk about mental weakness. Blank on stage, and you walk away believing you are not built for pressure. Forget the answer you studied all week, and you decide the problem is discipline. The science suggests a different verdict. The problem is often interference, the wrong system trying to help. So what actually helps? Not the advice you usually hear. Try harder is one of the fastest routes to explicit monitoring. Don't think about it fails because the brain treats suppression as another task, which consumes the same limited workspace you needed free. Even positive pressure, wanting it more, caring more, needing to prove yourself, can raise the stakes enough to invite the conscious mind into a process that never needed it. What works looks less heroic and more structural. Routines before high-pressure moments reduce the number of fresh decisions your brain has to make when arousal is already high. A free-throw routine, a pre-speech breath pattern, a fixed way of entering the exam room. These are not superstition. They are environment design for the nervous system. They tell System 1, this is the same situation we have rehearsed. Proceed. External focus training does something similar. Instead of rehearsing how your body should feel, you rehearse what you are aiming at. The target, the audience member, the next line on the page. You train attention to stay where the task lives, not where the anxiety lives. And perhaps most importantly, you stop treating a choke as proof that you lack talent. You treat it as data, a signal that under a specific combination of stakes, attention, and self-monitoring, your automatic system got interrupted. That is fixable, not with shame, but with understanding. There is another layer here that elite sport keeps rediscovering under different names. Clutch performance is not the opposite of choking because someone wants it more. Often, it is the absence of the interference pattern. The player who appears calm is not always feeling calm. They may simply be executing without narrating. The musician on stage, the surgeon mid-procedure, the student who finally stops editing every word in real time. They are not superhuman. They got out of their own way long enough for training to speak. That should unsettle you a little, because it means some of your worst moments were not evidence of who you are. They were evidence of which system was running. And it means some of your best moments may not have come from trying harder either. They came when you stopped managing yourself mid-performance and let an older, faster part of your mind take over. This is where sport becomes a mirror for ordinary life. You may never stand on a championship line, but you have already lived the inverted you. The interview where overthinking destroyed a natural answer. The conversation where you rehearsed charm and sounded robotic. The relationship moment where trying to say the perfect thing made you say the wrong one. Pressure does not only test skill, it tests which decision system gets control. That is why choking spreads across domains. The athlete and the student and the entrepreneur and the parent giving a speech at a school assembly are not failing for different mystical reasons. They are colliding with the same hidden rule. Conscious control and automated mastery do not share the stage well. Once you see that, the highlight reel misses look different. Less like proof that greatness is fragile. More like proof that even greatness runs on systems. And systems can be disrupted. The research also hints at something hopeful. Skills that were lost to pressure can be rebuilt with the right kind of practice. Not just repetition in comfort, but repetition under simulated stress. Not just knowing what to do, but practicing where your attention goes when arousal rises. Beilock's work and related studies on performance anxiety suggest that training the mind's relationship to pressure matters as much as training the body. In other words, you can design for the choke point before it arrives. That idea connects directly to the broader lesson of hidden decision-making. You do not win by white-knuckling your way through every important moment. You win by understanding the system, then shaping the conditions around it. Routines, focus cues. Practice that includes pressure. Environments that reduce unnecessary self-consciousness. Recovery rituals that stop one failure from becoming a story about identity. Because nothing recruits System 2 faster than shame. Miss once, and if you decide, I choke under pressure, you carry that sentence into the next moment. The brain hears it as instruction. It starts monitoring for signs of choking, which creates choking, which confirms the story, which makes the next choke more likely. That loop is not weakness. It is feedback. Bad feedback, running on good intentions. So the next time you watch someone miss the shot everyone expected them to make, notice what you assume. Notice how quickly the world turns a system failure into a character verdict. Then notice whether you do the same thing to yourself when your mind goes blank, your hands shake, or your voice disappears. The crowd will keep calling it nerves. Commentators will keep calling it mental weakness. Coaches will keep calling for more effort. But you will know something they often don't. The shot was wide open. Not because talent vanished. Not because desire was too small. Not because the person didn't care enough. But because in the exact second when the outcome mattered most, the hidden system that usually executes without asking permission was pushed aside. And a slower, louder, well-meaning part of the brain tried to choose in real time what the body already knew how to do. That is choking, not a mystery, not a curse, not proof that you were never good enough. A switch. And once you see the switch, you can start learning when it flips. In sport, at work, in the quiet moments where no one is watching but the stakes still feel enormous. The shot is wide open. The question is no longer whether you will miss. It is whether you can recognize which system is taking it.